Welcome to the Solid Verbal.
The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo-woo!
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildenbrand. Joining me, as always, my friend over there in New York City, the man, the myth, Dan Rubenstein. Sir, how are you?
Ty, I had a way then. Losing it all on my own. I had a heart then, Ty. But the queen has been overthrown. And I'm not sleeping now. Just like you. You're not a sleeper. I'm not sleeping now.
Oh, God.
The dark is too hard to beat. It's hard to pick games.
I have no idea what lyrics these are here.
This goes in, you show the lights that stop me, turn to stone. It's Ellie Goulding, Ty.
Oh, man. Blind spot for me.
Really?
Sorry. Yeah.
So I was in a coffee shop doing work, as I generally do on Wednesdays. I had a stellar oatmeal raisin cookie.
Okay.
And I was sitting there enjoying it, and that song came on. And I just hit my groove studying for tonight's show. So I felt it was necessary.
You know, an oatmeal raisin cookie is good for you because it's got both oatmeal and raisin in it.
There is fiber coursing through my veins and through other parts of me.
Yeah, buddy. Well, welcome to week 2. We've still got a little bit of week 1, which we're going to run through here momentarily. But This is officially the week 2 preview show. Now, officially, we can say that week 1 is in the book. So we're going to talk about the latest rankings. We're going to talk about the 2 games we didn't have a chance to talk about on the early Sunday recap show that we put together, as well as a few other news tidbits that we think you might find pertinent. And then we're going to dive into a week 2 slate of games, which, gotta be honest, not the strongest slate of week 2 games, but
I disagree.
Well, a couple interesting tidbits.
Okay, it's not the strongest, but it is. I think it's pretty strong. I think it's sneaky strong.
Sneaky strong.
Like one of those strength coaches. You see that? There's fantasy stakes points for me.
I see it. Yep.
No, it's like one of those strength coaches who's tiny, and you're like, how is he? And then like everybody on the team is jacked. I'm like, all right, I guess he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I guess the tiny guy knows. So I think this is one of those weeks that has a little bit more bite than is expected.
Here is the favor that I want to ask of people.
Okay.
As they go on out to the games this weekend. We have a lot of folks who go out to the games. They call the Reverb line at 408-VERBAL-1, 408-837-2251. Would encourage everyone to keep doing that. It's always a ton of fun. But if you haven't already, tell someone at your tailgate about our show. Physically help them subscribe and download the show. This is the only way that the show is going to grow its footprint, by reaching out to other college football fans, bringing more aboard the bandwagon here. So we want to expand the Verballerhood. Please help others find out about the show.
I would talk about the show as if it's obvious that everybody listens. And when they're like, wait, what's the Solid Verbal? Is that the one with Dan and Ty, the 2 hosts with the best abs?
That's right.
You can say, yes, it is. But they're more than just pieces of meat. They're great podcast friends of mine.
If you want to surreptitiously record yourself putting on said act.
It depends on the state. If you're a 2-party state.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out.
Think about the legalities, Ty. No, yeah, just tell people. If you're into the show and you think other people would like the show, tell people at a tailgate. We want to have them.
SolidVerbal.com is the cool new website, thanks to our friends over at Superboss. They can check us out there. They can also subscribe to our newsletter. You can also follow us out there on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. If you're a new listener, if you're really into the show, you can always check out the subreddit that was started by Verballers for Verballers out at reddit.com/r/solidverbal. The only other bit of administrative housekeeping that I'd throw out here is that we do have new shirts that are incoming. New shirts as in some genuinely new designs, as well as another run of some old favorites coming to the Solid Verbal store very, very shortly.
That'll be happening in the next few weeks. Cotton Bureau has been very patient with me as I've been slow on the uptick, but the shirts are designed. They're ready. They're good to go with our friends at Cotton Bureau as soon as I email them to them. And so that's going to be happening sooner rather than later, as in days away. And I actually have an excellent transition, Ty, from this.
Please.
So speaking of new shirts,
yeah,
Willie Taggart has worn his 3rd new polo shirt in 2 years.
Wow.
To go 3 polo shirts and 3 points. That's a little nice coincidence there. I like it.
All right, let's get to breaking news.
Boop, boop, ba-doop, ba-doop, boop, 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 boop.
Daniel, your new AP top 25, or at least the top 10 of the top 25 after week 1, reads as follows. We've got Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, with Ohio State moving up 1, followed by Wisconsin at 5, Oklahoma at 6, Auburn moving up 2 to 7, Notre Dame moving up 4 to number 8, Washington dropping 3 to 9th, and Stanford up 3 to number 10. A notable mover here is LSU, which moves up 14 to number 11, and Miami, which moves down 14 to number 22. I don't know if we're in any position to be surprised by any of what we see here in the polls. Experience tells me it's a little too early to be offended or enthusiastic about any of what we see here, but I think a reflective measure of what happened in week 1.
Yes, and for the record, South Carolina and Florida, so a good little must-champion thing at the bottom of the top 25, both move in. They were unranked to start the season. They both move in to the, I am looking at the AP top 25. Whew. Where do you stand, by the way? Because every year, it's the same, few people, or maybe a lot of people yell, there shouldn't be a poll until October.
Right.
What does this mean? It means nothing. It's week 2. Where do you stand in 2018 about preseason and early season polls? I'm totally good with them.
Now, wait a second. You didn't used to be totally good with it.
I know. I've evolved, Ty.
I saw you tweeting
I have learned
from our
to see the value.
Today. I saw you responding to Todd Blackledge today.
I did.
And I thought to myself, is this new? Is this new for my podcast partner of 10 plus years now that you're all on board the preseason poll train?
I've ripened, Ty, like a good avocado, like a fresh summer white peach. I've ripened to the point of sweetness and acceptance, and I do see the value. Because it's one, it's fun to talk about. 2, it doesn't have actual bearing. People will point to 2004 Auburn and they started so low and they were kept out. They didn't have the same schedule.
So here's what I would say, okay?
Yeah.
There are plenty of things that have no real value that we still treasure, i.e. The Bachelor, okay? There are plenty of things that people...
I'm out on The Bachelor.
Right. There are plenty of things that people are into that have no real value for anything outside a very, very tight-knit group of fans. And I think that's where these polls come down. Look, it's, late August when we start seeing these polls for the first time.
Right.
When we start actually wondering how accurate, how relevant they will be. I agree with you. It's a talking point. It's a talking point. And people are into college football. It gets the juices flowing. What I hope doesn't happen is the committee takes them seriously. And it doesn't seem through the first couple of years of the system that anyone really does. But as a talking point, as a means of entertainment, just to get the juices flowing, certainly as two people who talk about college football all the time throughout the year, I'm fine with it. I just hope it never influences the actual decisions on who goes where.
No, what I think it is it's good enough. It organizes things into a list that is good enough early on to just sort of figure out where our heads are at. It's basically the difference of cleaning your apartment or home deeply, scrubbing the floors, dusting everything, vacuuming, and sometimes you just straighten up. And you know what? There's some value in straightening up, Ty. There's some value in organizing, even if you're not deeply getting to the root of all the issues. Correct?
I would agree with that. As long as it's not taken too seriously.
Yeah. Oh, of course. It should never be taken all that seriously anyway, Ty. And we're a Mountain West show now.
That's
so
fine.
It doesn't matter to us.
Yeah. But my point is, this should never be your citation in a research document.
No,
right?
Come on.
Just use it for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah. Feel how you want. This is just organization.
So some actual news here outside of the polls. Yeah. I want you, I hope you're sitting down for this.
I'm not. I'm a stander now. You're a sitting podcaster. I'm a stander now.
Are you using a Veridesk?
Oh, no. I'm using a desk, like an addition to a regular desk. It's called Near Pow. I don't know.
Is that English? What is that?
It looks like NEARPOU. I don't know. It was on Amazon, and it builds up a regular size desk into it's a tiny desk on top of
it's a poor man's Veridesk is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I hope you're at least in a stable position at the moment.
Shoulders are back.
Tua Tagovailoa was named the starter at Alabama. I know everyone is shocked.
Boo-doo-doo. Yeah.
Do we have anything to add about that? I don't.
No, everybody watched. Everybody knew. He had like the greatest opening game in terms of efficiency against a pretty good team that we've seen in a long time.
He's so good. It's unfair that Alabama has a guy that good.
Yeah.
But he's so good. Tough break for Jalen Hurts, but that's the rub of going to Alabama. The other thing, kind of, I guess, on a more serious, somber note, LSU had a pretty serious injury, right?
Yeah, K'Lavon Chazen is out for the season, a pretty devastatingly versatile and effective linebacker who was very good against Miami. He's out for the season. I wouldn't go as far as somber. Injuries happen. Hopefully he's able to recover fully and contribute wherever next year, but I don't know what year he is, unfortunately. I am lazy sometimes. We hope he has a speedy recovery because that LSU defense, and I don't know when we want to transition to the LSU-Miami game, but they were excellent against Miami. And he was a big reason why up front they just overwhelmed Miami's offensive line. And he was in on, it felt like everything. So they still have all sorts of talent there, and Devin White did a great job for the Tigers. So not terribly, terribly worried long-term, but sucks to see.
Willie Taggart, your boy, Willie Taggart.
Yeah, my guy.
Using the tried and true excuse in saying that Virginia Tech players were faking injuries to slow down his offense.
Yeah, one of those things you bring up when you win. One of those things to be like, listen, we did it all with them faking injuries. Can you believe it? Not like we didn't score a single touchdown. We were crazy ineffective in the red zone.
We turned it over 5 times because of ...
More turnovers than points. Not the ideal time to then add, they were taking cheap falls. And it's also tough to know exactly when, and I do say this as an Oregon fan who has enthusiastically accused teams and did see Tosh Lupoy get suspended when he was at Cal for instructing his players to do this. But it can be tough when you look to the sideline and like a coach or an assistant knows you're hurt and tells you to go down because it's not worth it to play on an injury or a cramp or something like that. So it can be hard, but it's one of those things that you probably make public after a win, especially a win in which you score a touchdown.
We'll talk about that game as well. The only other 2 quick tidbits here that we need to mention, otherwise we wouldn't be doing the show right. Mm-hmm. Jeff Long, now at Kansas, conducting a review. We've got professors and a bit of outcry about the loss to Nicholls State in week 1. What is going on here?
I forget if Nicholls State wants to be Nicholls or Nicholls State. I always forget. But, we do deep dive Nicholls State a lot on this show.
Sure.
So yeah, there is some questioning from Lawrence, like, why do we keep doing this?
David Beatty's won 3 games now in just over 3 years. That's not a great track record. I don't care who the coach is.
There is something to, as soon as things start to get bad, and this happens at all sorts of programs. Recently we've seen it, not bad, but it's incredibly hard to dig yourself out of a funk. And there are systemic issues at a lot of places. It's not just a Kansas thing or a Rutgers thing or something like that. I do believe they play each other. I do believe Kansas Rutgers play each other. But there is something about needing not just to hire a new person and not just to build a new locker room, but there is something about the self-awareness of knowing where you are in college football's pecking order and implementing a system and sticking to it that is aware of the pecking order and, incremental. Like Illinois has fallen completely off and they almost lost to Kent State. It's it's very difficult. That's all I will say. And I understand where Kansas people are coming from. Kansas was competitive, like on a super high level, not a decade ago?
Yeah, the Mark Mangino era. Yeah, long live.
So it's possible to win in Lawrence. It's possible to be okay in Lawrence. It's possible to be respectably below average, which is, talk about self-awareness. I am very familiar with being respectably below average, but there is something.
You gotta have a fiery press conference and go full Barry Odom like we saw at Missouri last year after their rough start. Granted, a lot of Missouri's second half success was due to a weakened schedule, but still,
Kansas lost to Nichols.
They lost to Nichols.
Schedule doesn't get any weaker than week 1 Nichols.
Oh, man, just go full Barry Odom, man. Do it.
I don't know what you do. Because it's one of those things that also like losing begets losing culture, begets losing recruits. It all spirals and avalanches.
All right. So that's going on at Kansas.
So that's Kansas.
And the only other thing that I would mention here is that Braylon Edwards is suspended indefinitely from the Big Ten Network after being frustrated and apparently inebriated on Twitter and criticizing many at Michigan, particularly the Michigan football program, which I believe he may have called trash or garbage, if memory serves.
And called out a specific player. I think it was an offensive lineman.
Okay.
For being. And so I understand. You understand.
It's a good thing I'm not working for the Big Ten Network.
Right. Same. Well, I don't have that. I did not go to a Big Ten school. You did.
Right.
But there is something about being a frustrated college football fan and being able to say, man, this is super annoying and awful watching my team, and saying it publicly and commiserating with like-minded fans, alumni, whatever. But he works at the conference network.
Yeah. See, if I worked for the conference network, presumably they'd dig up all my old tweets about Trace McSorley's pop gun arm.
See, that is nowhere near as bad because you're not using language to say Trace McSorley is unacceptably trash.
They would dig up all the old tweets, though.
You probably have tweets that say that. But the pop gun arm thing is just a very specific element of his game that you're not a fan of. But if you look at the Big Ten now, I feel like there's probably more there between Braylon Edwards and Harbaugh and current Michigan administrators. There's a lot of the times behind the scenes, there can be bad blood that develops between notable alumni that played at a school and the people running the program now. Yeah. And that like a new coach will come in and, he's so much better to the former players than the old guy. Then you hear the stories.
Yeah.
There probably is more to the story, but Braylon Edwards, man, come on. You know, there's a lot of good about conference networks, but part of the deal is you're a mouthpiece. That's just what it is on a certain level. And you can't. Sorry.
All right. So here's what happened on Sunday night. LSU 33, Miami 17. Now, to my untrained eye, the LSU front seven looked like it almost completely overwhelmed Miami and Malik Rozier.
Yes.
Miami just could not get into any kind of rhythm until they were down like 30 points. Malik Rozier, his line on the day, just 15 of 35. He threw a pick six just before halftime, which made it 27-3 LSU. And that was pretty much that. On the LSU side, I'm curious to get your thoughts here on Joe Burrow, who went 11 for 24, but did not turn the ball over. Didn't commit the killer mistake that could have swung momentum in Miami's favor at any point in this game. I also thought got a pretty strong rushing effort, which was a question that we had asked multiple times before this football game. Where were the rushing yards going to come from? LSU seemed to be able to answer that part of the equation. I do think it makes things very interesting now for LSU in 2 weeks when they go to Auburn, because at least for me, I can only speak for myself. I was not taking LSU all that seriously as a force to be reckoned with in the SEC West. I really thought this was going to be a 7-5 team that looked the part of a 7-5 team. But if they can continue this trend and not shoot themselves in the foot, if they can continue to ride that youth and play very inspired defense the way we saw, then it's going to be apparent very early here that I was dead wrong, and I'd be happy to admit as much.
So I was within the context of it being his first game after becoming a grad transfer and going against a defense that I think we believe to be as fast and talented as Miami's should be this year. You know, it's a heavy ask to be good. And if he were like full on good in this game, that would have been another level and probably beyond reasonable expectations. I was encouraged by what I saw from Joe Burrow. It seemed like he was in control. It seemed like he knew decisions before he was going to make them, which was like he knew his options as for making decisions, which was encouraging as an LSU quarterback. You know, he made checks at the line that looked to be correct. His offensive line wasn't great. I don't think his receivers are great. Justin Jefferson made plays, but it looks like he's on the right track. It looks like he has the poise to lead this offense to really good games as he develops. But yes, part of that will be the line. Part of that will be Nick Brissett or whoever's carrying the ball continuing to burst and give them big plays. And I'm not fully ready to look at LSU's offense and say, oh yeah, this is the offense of a 10-win team.
No, I'm not there either. I'm just saying 7-5 might be a bit of a trolley perspective on where this team's going to end up.
So in terms of strong defenses, before we get to Florida State, Virginia Tech, they go to Auburn in a couple of weeks. They go to Florida, obviously, in the beginning of October. And then the week after is Georgia. The week after that is Mississippi State. The week after that is Alabama.
Woo!
Or they have a bye before Alabama, as they usually do. But the game week after that is Alabama.
That is brutal.
Which is tough. So LSU might be a 9-3 team that finishes 7-5, 8-4, something like that. But I think if you're an LSU fan wondering what a grad transfer who hasn't really been there all that long would look like against a good defense, there are a lot of interesting questions that were answered.
Again, the final score, 33-17 in favor of LSU. A nice opening statement here for LSU. And then on the Labor Day game, Monday night, Virginia Tech 24, Florida State 3. We mentioned it at the top that Florida State turned the ball over 5 times. They also had a punt block. Again, to the untrained eye, and as someone who saw a Willie Taggart offense up close and personal, Dan, tell me if I'm wrong here. It seemed to me like an offense that was supposed to go fast, but was moving too fast for itself. Like, you know, when a little kid runs too quickly and eventually just topples over because his or her legs can't keep up with his or her feet. That's how I felt watching this Florida State offense. Eventually, they will get there.
Yeah, I'll start with the positives out of fear of being too petty about Willie Taggart, which, listen, it's going to happen sometimes. I'm just telling you now, you've listened to the show long enough, you know it'll happen. But positives, I thought DeAndre Francois came out and looked pretty good.
I agree.
Early on.
Agreed.
After coming back from a pretty devastating injury, he came out and looked pretty good, and that's despite not having great offensive line play. I think they were down a couple starters. The receivers seem, at best, disappointing and inconsistent. I know they played a lot of young guys, but nobody really has stepped out or stepped up in that receiving core. Cam Akers is obviously hugely helpful, but going to need more than Cam Akers and what is Jaquez Patrick. Defensively, I thought Florida State did all things considered, new coordinator, big spot against a pretty decent Virginia Tech team. I thought they did a good job. They gave up, 17 points? Because one of them was the punt block, touchdown catch thing. So I thought the defensive line did pretty well. The corners have some issues. Linebacker is probably going to be a weakness, but that defensive line looked good, looked deep, looked overwhelming and swarming at times against Josh Jackson and Virginia Tech. The negatives, there's only so much a defense can do when the offense gets off the field with lethal simplicity. Once again, speed is great when it's working, but speed when it's not working just puts your defense in a crazy bind. And that's what it looked like. There wasn't a rhythm to the offense. You could see what they were trying to do. When they got into the red zone, they struggled. Turning the ball over killed them. It just was a disaster. It was a disaster of an opening stanza for Florida State and Willie Taggart. I anticipate things will be worked out. They'll be healthier. They'll get a better understanding of this offense. I am already not the biggest fan of DeAndre Francois as a 10-11 win quarterback, which is what design should be eventually for Florida State. But they should even next week after, whatever, they should be better. But they just seemed completely overwhelmed by, and listen, I'm going to be Kirk Herbstreit here, that Bud Foster defense.
Yeah.
That blue collar, workbench, box, blue collar, Bud Foster collar defense.
We shouldn't pan Virginia Tech here because all I did, I'll speak for myself.
Oh my God, we were so wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I questioned Virginia Tech.
Yeah, same.
What's Bud Foster going to do? Can he pull a rabbit out of his hat here? Can he show his wizardry with a brand new defense? Well, yeah, I guess.
He pulled a rhino out of his hat.
Yeah, I guess the answer to that is yes. So we could talk about Florida State until the cows come home, but Virginia Tech put together, I thought, a really impressive effort against a team with a lot of talent. And if they can establish some degree of consistency on both sides of the football, maybe that weren't there from a year ago, this is going to be an interesting club to follow now as we get into the ACC schedule.
Yeah, it's also week 1.
It's week 1.
So
it's week 2 now.
Well, yes, I'm saying week 1 in terms of Virginia Tech's performance, and I don't think they have anybody all that good until, I want to say, Notre Dame.
Could be, yeah.
Which is October. Yeah, it looks like it's Bill and Mary, ECU, ODU, Duke, and then Notre Dame. Schedule's looking, if they are okay on offense and good-ish on defense, schedule sets up real nicely.
They're like a 10-win team. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about that, but, threatening, sure.
All right. Well, we must move on. You know what time it is?
Dan, time, help. I need picks of the week.
Week 2 is upon us. We have a variety of games that we're going to throw out here. But first, something I actually forgot to do last week because I couldn't find an obvious answer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Your window of opportunity, for those of you following along at home wondering why are we playing the Windows 95 sound?
It's a great sound, obviously.
I can't believe how many people find this useful. I still can't believe it, but the window of opportunity is if you can't perch yourself in front of a couch all day on Saturday, if you do have odds and ends or errands, things that you got to get out there and do, or if a loved one, a significant other, wants to get you out of the house and do something other than college football, we're going to try and help you plot the course here.
Be strategic.
On Saturday, yeah, when can you get out and do these other things that life requires without inhibiting your watching experience as a college football fan?
Right.
The bigger games this week, Dan, I'm going to be real for a second, could be lousy to watch. It could be lousy television. Yeah. So if you're looking at this slate, and if none of what we're going to talk about grabs you, if you want to take the week off, if you want to do something with the Mr., with the Mrs., I'm going to allow it. I'm going to say that's perfectly fine. I'm not suggesting it.
Woo.
All right? Just make sure you keep downloading the podcast, most importantly. But
is there a window? I mean, you're saying like all day, but is there a specific window during the day?
I'm just saying, in an extreme case, if you feel the need that you don't know how to work it out, take the week off, plan for week 3. There are bigger games in week 3.
Yeah, odds are your team is not playing anybody with all sorts of significance on the line. Yeah.
If you do want to go out and get something done and be back in time for football, I think you got to do it early. I'd say be back by like 5:30, 6 o'clock Eastern, catch the end of Georgia, South Carolina. You will be in a position where you're not too far behind of what transpired earlier in the day. And I think you're going to be in front of a TV early enough that you can catch the end of a good game or at least a notable game. And you can perch yourself in front of a couple cool night games, which we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, and especially the nooners are not great. Because Kansas State almost lost to South Dakota last week, and they host Mississippi State. Nick Fitzgerald's back from his 1-game suspension, but there's not much in that window. UCLA is probably going to get just obliterated going to Norman.
Yeah.
And that's in terms of ranked teams. If you are just, if you're a fan of whoever and are interested beyond your team in the better matchups, the Nooners are, or 9 or whatever time it is for you during this window, just do other things. Mow your lawn, wash some dishes, do the deep cleaning that I say is not always necessary. Take that time.
That's right. Okay. Window of opportunity is early. Be back by 5:36.
Also, this is going to be my first coffee nap of the week because I think we have ASU Michigan State is a 10:45 Eastern kick.
That's a late freaking game.
Why?
I'm not staying up to watch that game.
This is one of the few times. You're not staying up at all?
It's going to be the same as it is every week, where the solid wife says, when do you think you're going to go to bed? Because you have to wake up early. And I'm going to say, I'm going to try to watch as much of this as I can. And I'll fool myself by telling her, I'm going to watch the first half. And I'll be asleep with 8 minutes left in the first quarter.
Get this one. September in the desert, the temperature at kickoff is expected to be 101-ish, which is, you can't put that game at 3:30. You just can't. So I am not going to, I have no criticism to levy against any TV network or school here, just because you have to in the desert. And I think it's been hot in Michigan too, so it's fine. Everybody's used to it.
All right. Well, let's start off with the nooner here. The nooner of note.
Yes.
Is on ESPN. It's between Mississippi State and Kansas State. They're playing this one in Manhattan, Kansas. Originally, the line opened at around 7.5. It has since gone up. Okay. Other people clearly watched K-State's opening stanza where they really should have lost. We're big on
stanza tonight. I like this.
Yeah, going with a poetry theme here.
Mm-hmm.
They really should have lost to South Dakota in that game, but they came back late and won. The line is now up to 9.5, Dan. Now, look, I'm willing to throw a lot out the window and chalk it up to being week one uncertainty. What I can't look past is that K-State just lost a ton of playmakers on defense, right?
And offense, yeah.
And offense, sure, but that's got to factor in here, not just against South Dakota, but even a week later. You hear a lot about the week 1 to week 2 improvement, and that's very much a thing. I think we'll see that universally in most cases, but man, Joe Moorhead, he is going to throw so many different things at this defense, and especially now that he gets Nick Fitzgerald back from suspension, we'll probably see both Fitzgerald and Keaton Thompson in this game. I am a true believer in whatever Joe Moorhead's going to put forth. I love Mississippi State to the tune of 34-21 in this game. And I'm not sure if I can lock it up quite yet. I want to be more judicious about which team I lock up because I went 1-1 a week ago. But I feel real confident about Mississippi State, the Bulldogs going on the road here, even despite K-State being just a plucky team and Manhattan, Kansas being a weird place to play.
They'll be better. Kansas State will 100% be better. I think part of that is growing. They have 2 new coordinators, I believe. So there's growing pains that have to exist in week 1, no matter who the opponent is. In South Dakota, yes, they should have distanced themselves from South Dakota 100%, but they will be better. They kept flopping the quarterbacks. It was ugly. It wasn't great. Mississippi State should travel reasonably well. It's not going cross country or anything like that. There might be growing pains for Nick Fitzgerald in his first game running a new offense for the Bulldogs. What line would you look at and say that's too much? If this goes up to 12.5?
Well, I'm picking...
It's still double digits against what we presume to be at least a pretty decent team. It's a lot of points.
My projection here is 34-21.
Okay.
So by that measure, I guess 14 would be too much.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how Kansas State is probably going to score that many points unless Mississippi State is scoring that quickly. I'm going to say State wins this one 35-20. So I think we're generally on the same page.
Yeah.
But it's just a lot of points, man. If I were to wager American dollars, this is not a game I would take.
Okay. Noted, Dan. Noted.
Yeah.
Noted.
Confidence level low.
All right. Let's move on. Let's go to Saturday at 3:30 on CBS. The Georgia Bulldogs with a tough little test here on the road in Columbia against South Carolina. This line opened at 9, moved to 10. It's kind of stayed there. Both teams, as you know, won comfortably a week ago with Georgia blanking Austin Peay 45-0. and South Carolina knocking off Coastal Carolina.
There can only be one Carolina.
That's right, Dan. I noted this from Bill Connolly, our friend Bill Connolly, who said that last season, South Carolina was outstanding as an underdog. They pulled 5 upsets and they went 7-1 against the spread. Is that notable? Should that be notable? Is that something we should consider now as South Carolina is a 10-point underdog against a top 5 team?
So it sort of says Vegas doesn't fully have a grasp for South Carolina and their abilities in the recent term, not necessarily for this season. They looked good last week. They scored quickly. Jake Bentley looks to be in rhythm with the new offense. And by the way, before we go any further with this game, I was just a few hours ago, and this has nothing to do with our partnership, but it sort of does because it's such a great product. I was reading Bruce Feldman's Feldman Files, which is sort of like the Monday, like I consider this to be like my Monday morning quarterback, like for the NFL. Bruce just has a notebook that he just dumps information out of. He talks to people during the week. He talks to people after games, coaches, players, whatever. And he was like, here is what people are saying about X, Y, and Z. And one of the nuggets from this week was the evolution of South Carolina's offense with new coordinator Brian McClendon and with help, obviously, from the quarterback's coach, Dan Werner, who spent a lot of time at Ole Miss developing that RPO-style offense. And just talking about the evolution of and what South Carolina is trying to do and how they are going to sort of become more progressive offensively. And it got me a little bit hot and bothered thinking about this game. Yeah, on The Athletic. So if you don't have The Athletic and you are missing Nugget City, Ty, because you're talking nuggets, you're talking dipping sauce, you're talking informational waffle fries.
Yeah.
If you don't have a subscription to The Athletic, you can pause this show right now. We won't be offended. You go to theathletic.com/solidverbal. We got a terrific special. I think it's $2-3 a month.
$2.99. Yeah.
Just, you're probably going to end up, you've been waiting to pull the trigger. You've been saying, well, I'd like that writer and that writer and that writer and their coverage of this. You know what? Just pause it now. Just get it over with. Your season's going to be so much better. It's what sports media should be. And they have Bruce Feldman dumping the nugs, Ty.
Yeah.
Dumping the nugs.
So many nugs out there. Theathletic.com/solidverbal is the URL.
Yes. So back to this game. I'm gonna gobble up those points. I got really hungry talking about nugs and sauces and informational waffle fries that I have to eat these points and take these points. I like Georgia a whole bunch. Georgia is in the midst of overhauling its defense, pretty young in a lot of key spots. South Carolina has some experience. I like what they're doing on offense. I like how healthy they are on both sides of the ball right now. At home with their headline game of the season at home. And just handing me 10 points, 9.5 points.
Yeah.
I think South Carolina is good enough here to keep it close. I don't think they beat Georgia. I think Georgia wins this game. I think it's something like 21-17, but I am happy to take the points of a pretty good SEC defense at home.
I'm sort of on board with that. I do believe that South Carolina will be better than a year ago. I don't think that means they're good enough to beat Georgia in this game, but it does feel like the kind of game where you've got an early special teams play. Like we've seen this before, right? An early special teams play that turns the tide for South Carolina and gives them some momentum. The crowd gets fired up, and then Georgia throws them in the old sous vide cooker. And 3 hours
so
later,
they're sous vide as opposed to crock pot. They're a little classier.
Wow. A little classier. Just as effective. My curiosity in this game, though, especially with the new system, the up-tempo stuff, is whether or not it's Jake Bentley's accuracy, because he turned the ball over a lot last year.
True.
Whether it's his accuracy or Georgia's defense, which gives out first. Because Georgia's fighting their own battle on defense, very talented, but far less experienced than they were a year ago. Which of those two factors comes into play first? I am not fully on board with the Renaissance movement here at South Carolina. So I hear you when I see 10 points, and I'm feeling 10 points is an awful lot. I'm also not on board with South Carolina covering that after 60 minutes expire. So I'm on board with Georgia winning this game by a 28-17 margin. Give me the Dogs on the road.
Wow. So Georgia last year, they win this game by a couple touchdowns at home with a far more experienced team. You know, the weaponry on offense, obviously, with Sony Michel and Nick Chubb, a lot higher. The receivers are great this year. I'm not going to say it's anything down in the passing game, and Jake Fromm is pretty clearly going to be better this year than last year, and he was already really good last year. So going to Columbia, going to Williams-Brice, if we assume that South Carolina has perhaps progressed a little more because of the experience from where they were last year, just an assumption, that's where I'm coming with my single dig.
All right. Fair enough. Let's go to Saturday at 5 p.m. on the Fox Network. Dan, this is a good old-fashioned rivalry. You know what we do in a rivalry, don't you?
Do we have to take the records and throw them somewhere?
We have to throw them out the window is what we need to do. Gotta throw them out.
Throw those records out because one team doesn't even have a record.
I was going to say it's a weird circumstance in which to throw records out any window.
Yeah.
Iowa won their first game. Their defense looked incredible. Iowa State probably would have won their first game, but they were not given the opportunity to play due to Mother Nature.
Correct.
And they straight up canceled the game. They're not even playing.
Somebody suggested that Mother Nature was the ultimate week one dude. The ultimate dude alert, Mother Nature.
All right. The line is 3.5 now. It's come down from the opening 4. Iowa State at Iowa. They're playing it in Kinnick Stadium. I was so wowed by that Iowa defense that I have to go with them here. It will be Iowa State's first game, and they are inexperienced up front, which I think is a good recipe for Iowa wreaking havoc with the Clones and taking them out of their game plan. I like the fact that it's in Kinnick Stadium. I hope that Iowa's wide receivers can cure their case of the drops that we saw from a week ago, and that should make Nate Stanley better. This game kills me because, I have just an inordinate amount of affection for Nate Stanley. I love him. Like a brother, right?
Right.
But at the same time, I was all in on Iowa State from a year ago. So I really don't want to root against either team here. I am going to take Iowa, though, minus the points at home. I think they're a better team for sure.
I'm glad you threw the records out because I was prepared to remind you. I like the Hawkeyes as well here. A little bit worried about their offense after last week, but NIU puts out a pretty good defense every year, and this year is no exception with how experienced they were. Iowa still with some issues running the ball at times. Nate Stanley didn't have a good opening week for the Hawkeyes. But yeah, there is something worrisome about Iowa State not having that warm-up, that tune-up game. The fact that perhaps the best player on offense and defense, so in Duke of Hazzard, Alan Lazard on offense and Joel Lanning on defense, both gone, both sort of game changers for the Clones last year. Also a little bit worried with Iowa State and regressing to the mean in terms of turnovers. You know how many fumbles they lost last year, all year long? A single fumble.
That's a lot of good luck.
One. It's luck. It's also good ball protection and all of the actual things you can control, but there are going to be fumbles and the ball bounces in weird directions that you can't always control. And Iowa State, for whatever reason, they controlled the ball. So I would be a little bit worried with Iowa State on both sides. They generated a lot of turnovers on defense and they did not themselves turn the ball over. So I am worried about that. So for those reasons, I think I'm just going to go Iowa. Love Matt Campbell, love the Clones, but especially going on the road in a delayed first week, I think they could come out a little bit too anxious, eager, whatever, with the rivalry spot. So I'm going with the calm of the Iowa Hawkeyes here. So I think they win this game by a touchdown. Let's call it 31-24.
The other thing that I would be remiss if I didn't mention, we've been doing the Solid Verbal Beer Club, Brew Club, Solid Verbal Brew. We have a new hop-pensive coordinator this week.
Oh,
gentleman by the name of Brian, who has a suggestion. Have a listen.
Hey, Verballers. It's Brian, your Week 2 hop-pensive coordinator. While many schools wait till Thanksgiving weekend for Hate Week, the start of the season means El Hocico in Iowa. In honor of that, let's take ourselves to the shores of the Iowa River and the bars of Welch Ave to enjoy the beer of Iowa, Busch Light. There's not much Hawkeyes and Cyclones can agree on, but with nearly 16 million gallons of Busch Light sold each year in Iowa, there's one thing we can agree on. we like our Busch Light. It's affordable and thirst-quenching on a humid college football Saturday. Have a great Saturday, and remember, enjoy responsibly.
Now, look, it's not a highbrow suggestion, Dan.
Right.
But we're nothing if not the show of the working man here on the Solid Verbal. So I appreciate not only the production quality.
I noticed that too, Ty. Yeah.
Better than most podcasts that are out there.
Oh, yeah.
But also the level of research, 16 million gallons. How about that?
Is that our lone beer recommendation for the week, Busch Light?
We did get a few that threw out Shiner Bock as well.
Okay, because of A&M Clemson, I assume.
A&M Clemson.
I love a good Shiner.
We'll go with a dual-pronged Solid Verbal brew this week. Send us pictures.
Double-barrel hop-pensive coordinators.
That's right.
Co-hop-pensive coordinators.
That's right. Either Busch Light or Shiner Bock.
I'm with it.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Good job. Saturday at 7 p.m. on ESPN, we've got Clemson traveling to Texas A&M.
We do.
Line here is now 12. You might remember last week, both teams looked pretty good in week one. And, maybe this is an irrational fear of mine, Dan.
Okay.
I suddenly find myself terrified to make any kind of prediction about Texas A&M.
Why?
There's a lot back from a year ago. Not the coaching staff, but a lot back in terms of personnel. And they feel like a real wild card to me. Like maybe I'm a little punch drunk from 758 total yards in week one or 240 yards and 3 touchdowns from Travion Williams.
Mm-hmm.
But they scare me a little bit. They really do.
They should.
How do you feel about this game?
Everything tells me to just take the points and that Clemson will win. And so I think I'm going to do that. You have experience watching the instant impact of Mike Elko with a talented defense.
Right.
I think that's not unfair to point out, especially with, you can't really talk about how they looked last week. They played Thursday night. I want to say it was Northwestern State and dominated them. That's fine. Clemson in all phases, perhaps other than quarterback after the way they finished last year, is a team you should have a ton of confidence in. They're deep, they're fast, they're strong. They have the best defensive line in the country. And even behind that defensive line, the secondary should be very good. The linebacking core should be very good. And Kellen Mond has been pretty competitive in big games. You saw him give Alabama a lot to worry about last year at home with the crowd behind him and them. I am less confident in Kelly Bryant and or Trevor Lawrence in Kyle Field than I thought I would be if we were talking about this game week 8, 9 last year, whatever week they didn't lose to Syracuse.
Right.
So I am going to take the points. There's no way I think Texas A&M wins this game outright. It's just too much of a slog against the excellence that is Clemson. But I think Clemson only wins this game by 10. I have this 34-24 Clemson.
Man.
And even giving up 24 from this Clemson defense feels, maybe it's 24-14. I don't know. But about 10 is that sweet spot for me in this matchup.
I'll say this. I went 5 of 10 in our pick'em pool.
Mm-hmm.
Which I've got.
Look at you bragging.
Yeah. I've got some congratulations that are in order here, which I'll get to at the end of the show. People who did really well in our pick'em pool. Don't forget, you can go out and you can play for free. solidverbal.com/pick'em if you're interested. My initial thought here was Clemson minus anything. What I'm finding the longer we do this show is that every time I bet against myself, I do better. So I think we agree here. Give me Texas A&M plus the 12 points. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to think twice. I agree with you. Clemson's not going to lose this game. But there is a part of me that is genuinely terrified of Texas A&M and what they might be able to put forth with a better coaching staff. And it
is early. It's so early.
An early season game that's kind of a de facto national championship for them. Kind of.
Yes, this is an extremely enticing matchup. If you're a Texas A&M fan, it's exciting. You're hoping for the best. And I think the most realistic parts of the souls of Texas A&M fans just want A&M to look competitive against a major team like this after some previous bouts these past few years. If Texas A&M comes out and they're just out talented, I think that's okay. I think deep within the recesses of a Texas A&M heart, they're going to be okay with that.
All right, let's go to Saturday at 8 p.m. on ABC. We've got Penn State at Pitt. The rivalry continues. 9.5 was your opening line. Some folks were apparently spooked by what they saw from Penn State in week 1. The line is now at 8.5 points. Okay. I understand, and I will acknowledge that it's tough for me to give analysis of this game because no matter what I say, it's going to come across as being biased towards my alma mater.
Okay.
I hope people who listen to this show, especially folks in the great state of Pennsylvania, I hope they know me well enough at this point to know that that is not at all my intention.
Are you a Commonwealth or a state?
We are officially a Commonwealth, Dan.
Yes. Love my facts.
I hope folks in the Commonwealth will know where I stand here.
Mm-hmm.
I think Penn State's going to rip their arms and legs off in this game, Dan.
Really?
I do. Yeah.
Why? We're not going to try to overreact too. I think App State is definitely better than we gave them credit for going into last week.
Yeah.
And Pitt, we have to take down Vincent Testaverde Jr. and the Great Danes of Albany is no small task, Ty, as you know.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett looks to have some stability, even with Ricky Town behind him at quarterback. Do you know, while you were saying that, I was like, there has to be something with Pickett. Like we had Wolford Wagon.
Yeah.
And I think I might be finding myself deep in the Pickett thicket.
Whoa.
I'm so ashamed of myself.
But
thicket is such a fun word to say.
Is Pitt our leading contestant in the ongoing nickname sweepstakes here that we've had on the program?
Maybe.
Because we had the secretly decent Pitt thing going for a while.
Sure.
I don't know. Kenny Pickett, he does scare me. The Pickett thicket is deep and a little scary.
There is some gumption to his game, Ty.
Also, a rivalry game in which you got to throw the records out. That scares me too. Penn State was really good on defense for 3 quarters against App State. And Miles Sanders had a very good game. Trace McSorley had a very good game, picked up right where he left off and was very poised, 5 of 6 on that final drive, which led Penn State back to tie the football game.
Mm-hmm.
I am far more into Penn State just as a team than I am Pitt. I went back and looked at my preview of Pitt, and I might have been a little harsh on the Panthers, but by and large, I know there are going to be more Penn State fans there than Pitt fans. And it's probably not going to be as hostile an environment for a road team as you might think from watching the coverage. So I am all in on Penn State here. I'm not locking this up. I'm not going to get too crazy.
What leads the way? What leads the way in their dominance? Is the defense, Brent Pry getting everything in order defensively after playing 2.8 really solid quarters? When I was watching that Penn State game, there was something about Penn State put the chubby kid 4th on the relay team, and they just assumed everything would be okay.
Right.
And then it was dramatic at the end. And so getting things in order defensively or on offense, just coming out with a lot more juice, with Trace McSorley, getting to know a new coordinator a little bit better, getting to know new players around him a little bit better. What is it that leads the way?
I think it's Trace McSorley. And I think it's Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders was really good in that first game.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. I think it's Trace McSorley. I think it's Miles Sanders. I think they find a creative way to use Tommy Stevens to loosen up the defense. Penn State has more weapons on offense than...
Old Tommy the Shovel?
I don't know. I think there's more there. I like Penn State by 10 to 14 points here. So I feel very confident about the Knits on the road.
Yeah, I think I like Penn State by 17 to 23 points. There is more to like about Pitt than meets the eye. The fact that they basically returned their entire defense from last year.
Yeah.
Kadri Ollison, I think, has a lot of talent. And get rid of last week against Albany, but there is something there. there is something about Kenny Pickett, who comes in completely unheralded and beats Miami last year. He's efficient. He's not going to like wow you down the field like crazy. He's not even college Nate Peterman. But there's something improving. To me, there's something in the air. There's something I'm feeling in the Pickett thicket, Ty. But it's not this week.
All right. We agree then, Dan.
We agree.
Saturday, 8:30 on Fox. See what I'm talking about here. A lot of night action going on.
Mm-hmm.
USC on the road at Stanford. The line is now at 5. Both teams started off a little sluggish in week 1, but pulled away in the second half. USC, of course, over UNLV. Stanford over San Diego State. I loved what we saw from both quarterbacks in week 1. I thought JT Daniels was really impressive.
How could you not? Yeah.
I thought KJ Costello was very good. Actually, that KJ to JJ connection not only was really good to watch, but has serious staying power just in terms of a thing that we could play out on the podcast. So I'm excited on a personal, selfish level for that.
Sure.
What's interesting in that game is how San Diego State pretty much devoted every single solitary defensive resource to trying to stop Bryce Love. And they did, to their credit. It did work. They held him to 29 yards, but it opened up the passing game for KJ Costello and JJ Arcega-Whiteside.
JJ Arcega.
Yeah. It showed us that KJ Costello can do that. If you try to load up the box, KJ can beat you deep, and that's what happened here. I think this is going to be a different game. I don't think USC is going to try to do that. I don't think they think that's a winning formula, and that should open up things for Bryce Love a little bit. He's going to have his first 100-yard game here the 2018 season. Is it fair to say, though, that we trust the Stanford offense more than its defense in this game? Is that a fair statement?
I mean, they look good last week against the pass mostly. Juwan Washington ran pretty consistently for the Aztecs against the Stanford team up front. So, yeah, I would say so. Yeah, this offense with the line in front of KJ Costello, with confidence, I think, building every day for KJ Costello, and knowing who he has to throw to. Yes, there's much more to be confident in with this Cardinal offense.
I feel more confident about Stanford's offensive line with like 4 guys back from a year ago, whatever. I feel more confident in them wearing down USC's front than almost anything else. They've got veteran receivers. I think they'll make plays against USC's secondary. I also think they're going to find a way to ruffle JT Daniels because it's his first road start. He's very good. He's going to be very good. He's only going to get better as the year wears on. But I do think it's the difference in this game. I think Stanford wins something like 28-20.
We aggressively agree. So the spread is actually, the line has gone up, right? It opened at like 3.5, went to 4. Now it's up to 5.5, depending on where you look.
Yeah.
So the case for USC is pretty straightforward. It's that recently, as in last year, with Sam Darnold, the better quarterback, USC didn't need big plays to succeed. They seem to be much more efficient than Stanford offensively. They didn't need to rely, and listen, there's nothing wrong with it if it works, but Stanford's offense last year, as they were sort of transitioning quarterbacks, was, damn, I hope Bryce Love rushes for 257 yards on 7 carries, because if not, then things are going south for a bit, for a stretch for the offense. Whereas USC was able to spread the ball around. Obviously they have Ronald Jones this year. Stephen Carr, I don't think is that far of a drop off from Ronald Jones. He's not quite Ronald Jones, but there is something at least comforting, I would say, about this offense not needing very specific things to win. Stanford, yes, took a step in that direction last week, but it's week 1 against a Mountain West team, a good Mountain West team. But I don't know how much you can fully take from it when this defense from USC is going to be more talented. You can run on USC, though. You could run on USC last year, and they lost the good players they had up front, the starters up front, and UNLV ran on USC. They didn't dominate USC, but they by no means got pushed around. USC got run on last week, and it's only going to get more difficult against Stanford. JT Daniels, I think, is going to acquit himself well, but this is still a tough ask to go on the road and beat Stanford, especially as a place USC has struggled these past couple times. They've been up to Palo Alto. I am taking Stanford just because of the consistency to me. USC is going to score points. What was your final score?
28-20.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's like 30-24. So in that same region, a little bit closer. But maybe even like 33-24. I don't know.
That's a lot of points.
Not double digits.
Yeah.
It's a lot of points, but I feel pretty good about it. So yeah, not only do I have Stanford winning, Ty.
Yeah.
Lock it up.
Lock of the week.
That's a bold play, Dan. That is a bold play.
Yeah.
All right.
That's who I am.
And finally, the late game in the hot heat of the desert. 10:45 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. It's Michigan State traveling to Tempe to square off against Herm Edwards and the new-look Sun Devils.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, this point spread opened at 6.5 and has come down ever so slightly. It has come down. You are going to have to help me figure this one out, Dan. It has come down, which means that people are throwing money behind Herm Edwards' NFL mindset.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly what they're thinking when they throw their money behind ASU.
I loved Michigan State in all the previews we did. I went back, I reread them. I loved Michigan State. And the week 1 hiccup against Utah State, it doesn't scare me maybe as much as it would have 8 years ago when we started doing this podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also liked ASU more than I expected in our previews, just in watching week 1. It didn't feel like they were in disarray. It just sort of felt like they had control. The defense was better than expected. The offense a little better than expected. I didn't hate ASU the way I expected. And now I'm looking at this game, 10:45, a hot one, and it has the makings of a game where I fall asleep at halftime of the first quarter, and I wake up at 3 a.m., I check my phone, and I see, ASU won 32-30. I am leaning ASU here. Talk me out of this.
Outright.
No, not outright. No.
Okay, because you just said 32-30 ASU.
I'm not saying that's likely, but I am leaning in the direction of ASU plus the points here.
First of all, it's going to be warm.
Very.
It's going to be a hot one. Like 7 inches from the midday sun, Ty.
If you are...
I have to go on?
No. If you are playing any kind of drinking game on the West Coast or on the East Coast, if you're really into your booze, any reference to the temperature, maybe they'll show one of those old dial thermometers on the sidelines. And
the sideline reporter is 100% going to have some sort of handheld thermometer and like, look at this, guys. It might say it's 103 outside, but it's registering 118 on the field.
Like maybe somebody outside the stadium trying to fry an egg on the macadam, one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Any reference to the temperature, just take one drink.
Please don't. Hydrate. Okay, so to talk you out of ASU making this a game, is that what you're asking me to do?
I guess, yeah.
I can't really do that. Ooh. I mean, if you want to look at the negatives recently about ASU against UTSA, they were pretty sloppy, a lot of penalties, a lot of shooting themselves in the foot, and against a team that at its peak is happy to take advantage of things like that, Michigan State would comfortably win if ASU is as sloppy. But I sort of look at that as week 1 stuff, but probably too worrisome to take ASU. That if you are going to beat a Michigan State team with this much returning experience, you have to have your crap in order. I didn't want to swear, Ty. This is a family show. That all said, Michigan State under Mark D'Antonio recently hasn't really gone on the road in September. I know they did a couple years ago against Notre Dame, but this is not a team who makes statements early on in the old-fashioned shower v. grower debate.
Right.
Michigan State seems to grow a little bit. They seem to win ugly against good teams. That's fine. Win is a win. But they just don't feel like if Michigan State actually were the top, I don't know what their ranking is right now. What are they, in the top 12 or something?
Yeah, right.
If they were of that quality, they would beat Arizona State, 31-14. For whatever reason, this is just a dumb gut thing that I can't really explain. I don't think they're there. They don't, and they haven't been running the ball well enough to control the game on offense. Brian Lewerke is pretty good, but this is still a tough ask. This is a pretty talented Arizona State team with an experienced quarterback, maybe the best receiver in the country. I'm taking the points and not asking any more questions or making any more statements.
Dan, I'm with you.
I'm just not there with Michigan State.
I agree. I feel the same sentiment. And because it's so hot, Dan.
The Yakos Home Dog of the Week.
Not just the home dog of the week, Dan, the hot dog of the week here.
The hot dog.
Hot dog of the week.
If you're in Phoenix, by the way, I know other people like other places better, and that's okay. Go where you want. But Pizzeria Bianco is probably one of my favorite 3 pizza places in the country.
You know what?
And there's a couple locations in that area. Have you been? Did I take you there?
I don't think we went to a pizzeria.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
We went to a place where I got a torta.
Yeah, that's right. Was not Pizzeria Bianco.
No. I'm hungry for a slice of pizza now, though. So I might do that after we record.
Good. Same.
All right. Before we go rapid fire through a bunch of other contests that need to be mentioned here on the program, as you know, the NFL season is starting up. If you are looking for expert coverage and analysis of the NFL, look no further. NFL Podcasts has you covered. If you are interested in the latest news from around the league, the Around the NFL podcast crew has exclusive access to industry insiders and team personnel, which allows you, the listener, to feel like you're in on all the action, Dan.
Love that action.
Perhaps you'd like to hear more of your favorite players and analysts break things down on and off the field. Then don't miss the Dave Damashek football program, as Damashek and his guests operate on a strict no-jive policy. Only honest, unfiltered opinions allowed. And finally, if you're more devoted than the average NFL fan, be sure to check out the Move the Sticks podcasts hosted by our good friend Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks. The NFL preseason continues to heat up. It is almost over. Make sure you follow along with NFL Podcasts for bold predictions and insights into who will be the next big star. Subscribe now to Around the NFL, the Dave Damashek football program, and Move the Sticks on your favorite podcast app or over at NFL.com, Dan.
Yeah. Easy.
Rapid fire here. Saturday, high noon on ESPNU. We've got the Duke Blue Devils on the road at Northwestern. The line is 2.5. I am all in on Northwestern this year. Not as a 12-0 team, but I locked them up last week and you said, really? Do you want to? I like Northwestern to win here. I like them to cover. I do like this football team, so give me the Cats.
I agree. Give me the Cats.
Saturday at high noon on ABC, Arizona at Houston. This line started at 4. I think it's at about 4.5 or 5 now, depending on where you look. This is a game, Dan, I looked at it and I said, I got to pick Arizona. But then I looked at it a little bit more and I said, I got to pick De'Ara King. I was surprised to see the line, but I love Ed Oliver. I love De'Ara King. I am going to take Houston to win and cover here at home.
It's going to be real stanky. It's going to be a hot one, Ty. Again, I cannot tell you how close it'll be to the midday sun, but I think this game is actually midday. So this one actually makes sense. De'Ara King is very good. Obviously, his new offensive coordinator is Kendall Briles. That combination seemed to, after a slow start against Rice last week, it picked up. Marquez Stevenson looks like he could blossom into a go-to receiver. So I am going Houston confidently to win this game because a bad defense, a new coach, not able to figure out what to do with this quarterback all that well, and just crippling humidity, it is not my favorite combo. No. I am happy to pick against Arizona here for the time being.
Saturday at 1 p.m. on Fox, UCLA at Oklahoma. The line is 30.5. Wow. Before the year, this looked like a game that could be interesting because of the Chip Kelly thing, because of Kyler Murray and really just Baker Mayfield moving on to the NFL. I would never in a million years bet on UCLA to cover after what we saw last week. They could well do it, but I'm going to go Oklahoma minus anything because they just seem like they're much, much further along.
That's fine. UCLA is going to get, it's week 1. And it's a backup quarterback thrust into action. Granted, Cincinnati. They should be better against Cincinnati. Oklahoma's probably very, very good. My concern if I'm Oklahoma is it a letdown look-ahead sandwich?
Ooh.
Iowa State next week, revenge spot for Oklahoma, FAU. This was mostly a roundabout way to insult UCLA, and I apologize. UCLA is going to take some time. I like Oklahoma here. I think Oklahoma comfortably beat 30 so many points, though, Ty. I think Oklahoma takes it. I think that it's going to be something like 52 to... I don't know. I have to subtract 30 in my head, right? So 52 to 17?
52-21.
52 to 20?
52-21 gets the job done.
Yeah. Okay.
What a dig at UCLA if they're being looked ahead because Iowa State's on deck.
I apologize. That was mean.
Saturday at 3:30 on Big Ten Network. Rutgers at Ohio State. This line is another hefty one. 35 points. My prediction here is that King Arthur Sitkowski has 3 to 4 interceptions. Not because I have anything against Arthur Sitkowski. I'm a big fan of King Arthur.
Well, he threw 3 picks against Texas State.
Yeah.
So you're not way out there saying that.
I'm going to go Ohio State minus anything here.
Yep, same. Agree.
Saturday at 3:30 on ABC. This is an old school matchup. Colorado at Nebraska. Going to be Nebraska's first game of the Scott Frost era. They didn't play last week because of Mother Nature. The line is 4 1/2. Who you got?
First of all, this matchup to me is triggering. Wasn't this the Big 12 championship game that Nebraska got destroyed in and still went to the national championship?
Yeah, that's right.
2001 instead of Oregon. Real cool, everybody. I went back and forth in this game. So Nebraska obviously misses their first week because of Mother Nature, the ultimate dude.
Yeah.
Colorado looks really good, but is it a Colorado State bump? Who's to say? It is, by the way, a magnificent year for well-named receivers.
Yeah.
So we've got Laviska Shenault for Colorado. There is Randall St. Felix for USF, who sounds like a Seinfeld. Well, AJ Pennypacker was Kramer.
Yep.
It feels like his business associate and fellow industrialist was Randall St. Felix. I feel there's an Osiris Williams somewhere. I want to say, is that Mississippi State? Amon Ra, whatever, at USC. It's just a wonderful, wonderful name year for receivers, which is a very roundabout way of saying, I think I'm going Nebraska here. It worries me that they're starting a true freshman with, the pressure that's not just going to be on Scott Frost, but his proxy is going to be Adrian Martinez on the field. It took a little bit of time for UCF to get going, but there's something about... I'm actually not really talking myself into Nebraska. I think Colorado does a good job in this game, but it's in Lincoln, so I'm just going Nebraska.
So you're going against Stevie Montez.
I'm going against Stevie Montez, yes.
Dan, let's do it.
All right. Wow.
Let's get this Scott Frost hype train rolling, baby. Yeah, give me Nebraska minus the points here. Lock it up.
Is it more about Colorado uncertainty? That's what it is to me, because I don't think Nebraska is all that good.
No, it's absolutely what it's about.
Okay, just making sure. I think Laviska Shenault, wow, what a name, is really good, though.
All right. Saturday at 7:30 on the SEC Network. Kentucky at Florida. Florida, a 14.5-point favorite, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
I think Florida destroys Kentucky in this game.
Do you think there's a chance that Dan Mullen comes in year one and the streak ends? That Kentucky just goes... I think Florida comfortably wins this in a very emphatic way as well, because Kentucky doesn't have a quarterback.
No.
And as many issues as Florida has... And there's some talent on defense, some talent on offense. Florida is definitely not stocked the way they have been, even last year, the year before, whatever, at the end of the Jim McElwain era. Kentucky is not good. No. I mean, Benny Snell is, but...
That's about it.
That's all I really feel good about.
Saturday, 7:30 on FS1, we've got Fresno State at Minnesota. Minnesota, 2.5 points. The favorite, as I said last week, PJ Fleck, has found God on the corner of Zach and Annexstad. Which I was rooted on to continue doing that on Twitter.
Were you?
I was, yeah.
Ugh, Twitter.
I don't know why, but I was pretty high on Minnesota before the start of the year, and I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is.
Disagree. I'm going Fresno State.
Okay,
how about that? It's not
a
a bad time to be in Minnesota. I don't know what the weather is, but it can get cold, and that stadium's outside now. I'm going to go with the Mountain West, Ty. I'm going to go with Marcus McMaryion. This is a Fresno State team that they had a stretch. Granted, it was Idaho. There's your disclaimer. They had a stretch in like a quarter that was, I want to say, blocked field goal touchdown, pick six, and then blocked punt or another blocked field goal touchdown. So there are many ways to win, which I like going to a pretty far away road environment. So I'm going Fresno State here. I'm going Tedford and McMaryion.
Finally, Virginia at Indiana Saturday night. Indiana 5.5 points the favorite.
Yeah, I'm going to go Indiana.
I'm going to go Indiana.
You were too high on Indiana during our Big Ten preview not to.
Then they changed their quarterback from Brandon Dawkins and suspended their running back.
True.
So maybe I'm going to go Virginia. I'm going to go against my initial instinct here. I'm going to go Virginia. Sure. Why not? Plus
Next.
5.5. Finally, we've got California at BYU. 2.5 points in favor of BYU. Who you got?
I'm going to take Cal here. I think BYU is definitely going to be improved, but actually, I didn't love the Bauer Hour last week.
No,
I'm still going to go Cal. I'm still going to go a step up this week. BYU plays a good game in the desert. I think that was an Adam Amin game, but I'm going to roll with the West Coast. I'm going Cal here. I think they shut down Tanner Mangum in his, well, I guess it's a special season because it's his 10th year.
That's right.
Starting at quarterback for BYU. But I'm still going Bears. Roll on, you Bears.
I'm going to go Bears as well, but I'm not going to play the sound. I don't want to jinx my boy Ross Bowers.
Okay.
That's all we got, Dan.
There actually are more, like if you are flipping, these games could be competitive and feature, like Wisconsin, I think, is playing New Mexico.
Okay.
And here's a name, Ty. Again, we're talking about good name season. Tavaka Tuioti.
Yeah, that's good.
His offensive coordinator is Calvin McGee, who helped to develop Khalil Tate these past couple years at Arizona. Wisconsin's going to run away with it, but that's a name to remember. Michigan has opportunity to completely destroy somebody after everybody said, oh yeah, Michigan's not good on offense. And that team is Western Michigan. They will probably destroy Western Michigan. Sneaky game. I think Nevada, if we're going to claim to be a Mountain West podcast, Nevada and Vandy at Vandy. I'm not all that high on Vandy, but Nevada dropped like 72 points on somebody. That seems to be trend in a good direction. We also neglected to mention something very important, Ty. Georgia Tech USF.
Oh, right.
First of all, it's a good game. Blake Barnett, Randall St. Felix. I'm just going to say that name until I can't physically say it anymore. Georgia Tech looked good. The defense looked improved. Who's calling this game?
Oh. Would that be Adam Amin?
That would be Adam Amin.
Yeah.
And what does he bestow upon us and the Verballerhood?
Here is your voicemail for week 2. Have a listen.
Another college football Saturday, another day to gorge on food that will certainly kill us all. So with that in mind, I've got the perfect place in Tampa, Florida for you to visit. DATZ, D-A-T-Z. The entire menu is pretty great, from the coffee to the breakfast to dinner to brunch to a really good cocktail menu, and they've got a beer menu that I truly believe will make your offensive coordinator proud. But I have 2 recommendations for you that I think are must-haves. 2 years ago at the national championship, Laura Rutledge, her producer, and I all split an order of monkey bread. I feel like I was a better man for it. Perfectly glazed, the right amount of icing. It's warm. I think it's great with coffee in the morning or as a post-dinner dessert. And then last year, before the Outback Bowl, I discovered something called Barry C's stuffed meatloaf. And when I say stuffed, I'm not messing around. It's the meatloaf, but then they put bacon jalapeno mac and cheese inside of the meatloaf. It's amazing. And then they top the whole thing with a ketchup glaze. They serve it with the house mashed potatoes, peas, pearl onions. This is one of those things that you can truly wait all day for, and it's totally worth it. Or it's the ultimate comfort food when your significant other breaks up with you for watching all the football and then forgetting to pick their mother up at the airport. I don't know. Not that that's ever happened to me. DATZ! Do it. Tampa, Florida. It's excellent. As for me, Rod Gilmore, Quint Kesnick, and I will open up your day on Saturday over on ABC or on ESPN2, depending on your location. Noon Eastern, sneaky good game, Georgia Tech, South Florida. We'll talk to you then. This has been your solid verbal voicemail.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Thank you.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Can I run through real quick, Ty? Real quick? I know we're giving the people so much time, but we're filling up your drive. Justice Hansen is a really good quarterback. His team is going to lose to Alabama in Tuscaloosa, but I'm curious to see what a really good quarterback is able to do against this Alabama team, right? Fair?
Sure.
Notre Dame, Ball State, anything to take away from that? Are you looking for anything specific?
I'm looking for no injuries here. That's what I'm looking for.
No injuries.
Yeah.
Here's a pre-dude alert. Brady White was at ASU for a little while. He is lighting things up, or I think will continue to light things up for Memphis. They play Navy. Navy coming back from Hawaii, which is a long flight, Ty. That is a long flight or group of flights. So pay attention to Brady White and that offense. Outside of that, Maryland, Bowling Green. Maryland should go to 2-0. We didn't really mention Jordan McNair last week and what the school did for McNair before the game with only putting 10 men on the field, honoring him. Maryland should be pretty good this year, and we hope that being good and everything that has happened off the field helps this team come together for the sake of the players and fans who deserve a good program, I would say. Outside of that, Drew Lock is playing against a good defense in Wyoming. Oregon has Portland State. No injuries, please. No injuries. Arkansas is getting the Colorado State bump. So if you play fantasy college football, grab anybody on that Arkansas offense. Utah traveling at NIU. I don't know if that's tricky. I don't know if that's weird, but that is a thing. Texas has a chance to win a game in September. So pay attention. They're playing against Tulsa. Outside of that, not too much. I just have one very quick request.
You got to hurry up because we're really
up against it.
Yeah, we are.
Will you drop that big, stanky, spasming, thirsting, sliding,
settle,
beckoning drum and fife?
All right, Dan, who we got?
I apologize for spasming. Even I am beneath that. Villanova's traveling to Lehigh. Villanova, good last week.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Absolutely. I got to go Lehigh here, Dan.
I disagree. Give me Nova.
Yeah, okay.
Going Nova enthusiastically. Lehigh, top 2 team in the Lehigh-Lafayette rivalry, no doubt. Georgetown hosting Campbell.
Is this at Multisport Field?
It appears to be at Multisport Field.
Then I gotta go. Gotta go.
It's a Hornet's Nest.
Gotta go the Georgies then.
Gotta go the fighting Georgies. I agree. BC hosting Holy Cross. Upset of the Millennium tie.
Millennium, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm tempted to go Holy Cross and the Crusaders here, but A.J. Dillon will have a ton of yards in that game.
Gordy Fick bomb?
Yeah.
Not walking through that door.
No.
Bucknell hosting Sacred Heart. I say the heart, not as sacred as it would like to appear. Give me the Nellies.
Give me Sacred Heart. You know,
wow.
Nellies. Never.
Lafayette at Delaware. Lafayette, obviously, somewhat local to you. Delaware is where you summer.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean you go there for like 4 days.
I'm going to go Blue Hens here, Dan.
Could not disagree more. Give me the Yetis. Colgate traveling to New Hampshire. The Granite State tie.
Go in New Hampshire. New Hampshire's usually pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah, usually. Let's go New Hampshire as well. And finally, at Azteca, Richmond hosting Fordham.
Man, tough slate here for Fordham.
Spiders, huh?
I'm gonna go Richmond in this one.
I'm going New York's one true team, Ty, I believe. And when they make you pay, I can say I've been there all along. Give me the Rams.
All right. Well, longer show here than usual, but
it's fine.
Not short on any information, and it's free.
I say that as the person who doesn't edit the show and post the show.
This is true. Just wanted everyone to know, even though this is like a 90-minute show. Dan?
Yeah.
We ride.
We ride.
We still ride with our friend Brandon McKissick.
Anybody new that we want to ride with, or at least that we want to acknowledge?
Well, we did have a group of folks who tied with 9 out of 10 correct on the Pick'em pool.
Mm-hmm.
They are, I'm reading off their display names now. A-Warp, Zach Cronrath, Snowcool08, Pinkerton Astros, Trojan Terrors, Matrak, Mallory Lawrence, and that's it. They were all 9 of 10. That's 7 people who went 9 of 10 on the Pick'em pool. We've got a pretty healthy group of others who went 8 of 10, all of which is very, very impressive. Please do go on out to solidverbal.com/pick'em.
You got it all out there. The only thing I'm going to add here, Ty, is you can watch my weekly video called No Brainers for the Action Network. It's on Twitter. If you go to Action Network HQ on Twitter, follow them. It's great. They do a great job with sports gambling. I'm doing work with them. I have a weekly column that's out, so I tweet that out. And No Brainers is for everybody that likes when I make wrong college football picks and correct food picks. That kind of thing is back. It's a really strong episode this week. That should be up Thursday. Today's Wednesday as we record this. And I'm doing work, and I did not have the opportunity to announce this last week because we were still crossing the T's and dotting the lowercase J's. I'm back, I guess, Circle of Life, doing work with our pals and where we met.
Yeah, wow.
Sports Illustrated.
This is weird.
That's a fun little announcement. So I'm doing a weekly video basically engineered for you to watch while you sit on your throne in the bathroom. It's 2 or 3 minutes, and it's like, hey, here's why you should watch various games today. I'm not picking games. I'm going to be wrong picking games anyway. So it's just a quick rundown. It's on SI's Instagram feed. So if you follow Sports Illustrated on Instagram or you follow SI Now, I imagine you're already doing both of these things. On Twitter, SI Now. So a weekly video series back with SI. Could not be more thrilled to be doing stuff for both Action Network and SI. So that goes up basically the middle of the night between Friday and Saturday. So roll out of bed and you can see your pal Dan on Sports Illustrated social media feeds doing fun little short video.
Cool. Very cool.
Particularly good on the toilet. That's all I'm saying. Particularly good. Instead of watching a 3-hour pregame show, you get me for 3 minutes. Then just move on with your day.
On that note, for my good friend Dan Rubenstein over there, for myself, Ty Hildenbrandt over here, thanks again for bearing with us, for plunging deep into week 2. We will catch you all on Sunday. In the meantime, stay solid.
Peace.